Welcome to lesson one of Immanuel's called Maligned. And so we're going to get into it today. So we're talking about discipleship in this class, like we talked about in the introductory lesson. Um, we're going through the Gospels, and but some specific teachings we'll talk about. Now, but I do want to go back into one Hebrew term, which is translated into disciple. It's actually an adjective when it's used in Old Testament, which describing a person, a disciple, um, is an adjective. But I want to go into what that means. It means taught, learned, discipled, taught, accustomed to. And so we understand that once again, like we are, when you approach the Gospels and we're approaching this learning of discipleship, we are we are the learners. We are the taught. We're being taught. We're the students. And the last one is my favorite one, accustomed to something. We're being made accustomed to the ways of God, the ways of Christ. Okay. Now, these are the things, this is really the rest of the class. I want to give it to you straightforward so you know where we're going, what we'll be talking about. So, we're talking about the seven qualities as experiences of a disciple that Jesus outlines in the Gospels. The first one's to be called demonic and maligned by the world. The second one's to deny yourself and take up your cross. The third one's to hate your own father, mother, wife, children, brothers, sisters, even your own life. The fourth is to give up all your own possessions. The fifth is to continue enduring the word of Christ. The sixth is to love other disciples of Christ. And seven is to bear much fruit. Now we're also in the last seven lessons will be the disciple exclusive parables. These are parables that only disciples heard. They were not spoken to the multitudes. They were not spoken to the crowds. They weren't spoken to. They were spoken to the disciples. So we'll talk about the sower. We'll talk about the weeds and the tares. We'll talk about the faithful and the wise servant, the unmerciful servant, the talents and minas, the workers in the vineyard, and the 10 virgins. Okay. So we're going to go ahead and get into our first teaching, which is to be called demonic and maligned in the world, which is why our lesson is called maligned. Now, when we read this, we're not just going to read the part that says it. We're going to read the whole section to give us whole context of the conversation. And he says other things associated with it to strengthen our understanding of what he is saying. So Matthew 10:24 to 25 says, a disciple is not above his teacher, nor a slave above his master. It is enough for the disciple that he become like his teacher and a slave like his master. If they have called the head of the house Beelzebul, how much more will they malign the members of his household? That's Matthew 10:24 to 25. Now, I'm going to tell you the truth. I'm not going to offer very many if any. Actually, I'm probably not going to offer any cross references at all as we were talking about the Gospels. Okay. I could because Jesus is the Word, and everything he is pulling from Old Testament rhetoric. I mean, also, he has given us new revelation that has not been said before, specifically of what it means to be a disciple. But even some of these things that we're learning about what it means to be disciple are actually things that were taught to the Levites in the Old Testament, or were described as positive traits of the Levites in the Old Testament. I'm not going to give Old Testament cross references or even other um, New Testament writers cross references, and the reason for that is because if you don't believe what Jesus said, it doesn't matter. As we've talked about probably over 200 lessons by now, and I've harped on the last few lessons, everything associated with the Sabbath, this 7 day he wants to bring us to, is associated with the word of Christ and obedience to Him. So, although some people may see the Bible as He is His words are inspired by what's old. That's not how I see it. Why? Because He was from the very beginning. How I see it is that instead of a rainbow or instead of lines that come from the Old Testament towards Him in the New Testament, I see it as He is the center point. He is the origin of our Word of God, and everything that's being said before Him and after Him comes from Him. So when we come to Him, we are coming to the source. There is no reason to have sources for the source. Now, like I said, you could. makes for good scholarly papers and conversation and theology, but we're not here for that. We're here for belief and faith. If you don't believe in him, one, how did you get this far in a school so far? Maybe the school is not what it's meant to be. But two, you have a whole other issues besides coming into discipleship. If you need help believing or need more supporting evidence to believe what Jesus said is true, what he says should be final word, and then there's nothing else to say. Now, I want to say that again in this class. But what I will do is we will evaluate or we will observe the original Greek transcripts. Why? Because we want to. If his words matter that much, it says that his word is eternal. Is beyond this the current heaven and earth. This is heaven and earth will pass away before his words do. If they matter that much, we must make sure and be understood about when we are reading his word, do we really understand what he is saying? And if we want to understand what he's saying, you're not going to do that by reading summarized translations or even just reading English translations. You have to get down into the Greek text, and I'm not saying it'll be a perfect listen. As I'm telling you this, in my studies with Hebrew and Greek, I did not choose because I could have went two different ways. I could have tried to become a great Hebrew speaker and a great Greek speaker. I'm near those things, but I did learn the tools to study those languages to make sure that I am 100% on what was actually said by him and not lost in translation, not translated in some weird way or some different way that doesn't really give the full mood of what's being said or understand what's being said. And sometimes a word in Greek or a word in Hebrew just doesn't have a single word equivalent. So they choose one. But if we really understood what that word means in Greek or Hebrew, it would maybe change a little bit how we think about it. If I give you one example, the word yom means time period, and it's used for day, months. It literally means time period. We understand that means time period. It doesn't always mean literal day though. So when you start to understand, you read yom for day, and you understand that it doesn't actually mean literal day. You understand that when day is being said, it could mean something bigger than a day. And that's to say that every time you do a Greek word study or a Hebrew word study into what you are reading, the essential terms and words that make up the passage, it doesn't mean you're always going to have this mind blowing find. It really isn't. And sometimes things are if you're using a good translation like the NASB 1995, sometimes things are translated well, and there are some things that hey, we if you look into it, you can get more understanding of it. So we'll do that. First, we'll start with the word disciple. I want to read this again because I talked a lot. Okay, a disciple is not above his teacher, nor a slave above his master. It's enough of the disciple that he become like his teacher, and a slave like his master. If they have called the head of the house Beelzebul, how much more will they malign the members of his household? So, one, he is saying that the desire of a disciple is to become like his teacher. Become because you're a student, and which means it's a developing process. But he said that's enough, though. That's enough. What more does a true student want than to become like his teacher? But he's also trying to let you know if you want to become like me, you're not going to become the good of me or what you perceive as the good of me or the glory of me without the persecution of me. So if they call me Beelzebub, how much more will they malign the members of household? If they call me that I say I'm evil, they call me demonic, they call me a literal demon, what do you think they'll call you? So he's describing a experience of being a true disciple, a teacher, a learned one, a taught one of God is being called demonic. And I believe these teachings are so essential because it is almost impossible to go on a true discipleship following journey of Christ if you have not heard him say these things and believe these things, because typically you don't think that, oh, people are going to call me demonic if I'm following Jesus. Yeah, yeah, they are. So that's not a reason to quit on your journey. That's not a reason. He's preparing you. He's giving you what you need to endure, because this is what they're going to say. A couple Greek words. And now listen, I'm going to butcher some of these words. Mathetes, okay? And it was translated as disciple. The word emphasizing a learner and a formal relationship with a teacher, not just a follower. The disciple is apprenticed to become like the master through sustained instruction and imitation. The term implies submission to the teacher's authority and methodology. Great. Kyrios, translated as teacher and master. These paired terms show two aspects of Jesus' authority. Oh, I'm sorry, I said Kyrios, but I didn't say the other one. Didaskalos. Okay, so didaskalos is translated as teacher. Kyrios is translated as master. These paired terms show two aspects because he's calls us both, right, in the situation, and also calls us both, student and slave. But says these paired terms show two aspects of Jesus' authority. Didaskalos focuses on instructional authority, while Kyrios emphasizes ownership and lordship. The disciple belongs to the master, both intellectually and personally. Important there. Because listen, when you are a student, you show up to school, and he's saying that, listen, that teacher owns you intellectually because you're becoming like them mentally, intellectually, what you know, what you think. But a slave is owned physically. He doesn't go home to school and come he doesn't go to school and go back home. He is owned by that master and stays in his house, stays in a place that he gave him in his house and does what he tells him to do all the time. So we are not just those. We are those that go to school and learn intellectually, but we are also those that are owned. We have a master owned, and we don't come and go as we please. We are always his, and we always do what he allows us and tells us to do. Beelzebub, this name for Satan, meaning Lord of the dwelling or possibly the Lord of dung or filth, heightens the insult. If they called the master the devil himself, how much more the household members? So understand this. If they called Jesus the devil, I just said a second ago, the devil is the exact opposite of what he is. You have to understand, you have to be secure in your following of Christ. Is they are going to say the exact opposite of what you are. You know you follow the ways of love, they call you hateful. You know you have joy, they call you depressed. You know you have peace, they say that you're distressed. You know the ways you follow are holy, they call them unholy, evil, unrighteous, filthy, wicked, sinful. He's preparing you and telling you this is the experience. Let's keep going. Therefore, do not fear them, for there is nothing concealed that would not be revealed, or hidden that would not be known. When I tell you in the darkness, speak in the light. When what you hear whispered in your ear, proclaim upon the housetops. Do not fear those who kill the body, who kill the body, but are unable to kill the soul. But rather fear him who was able to destroy both soul and body in hell. Are not two sparrows sold for a cent? And yet not one of them will fall to the ground apart from your Father, but the very hairs of your head are all numbered. So do not fear, you are more valuable than many sparrows. So, important things he's addressing is the fear. He's like, listen, don't fear, do not fear them. I know what they're going to call you. And I'm trying to tell you, this is so important. You have to be secure to be on this walk. I'm telling you, the insecure don't make it. I've been on it long enough. If you're not able to only be validated by the red letters in this Bible, you are not going to make it. Do not fear them. Those who call you demonic, those who call you evil, those who call you unholy. Don't fear them. For there's nothing concealed that will not be revealed or hidden that will not be known. He said, listen, in due time, it'll be revealed what you're doing, who you are, that you're not evil, that you're not demonic, that you're actually on the right path. It will be revealed. So when I tell you in the dark, speak in the light. And what you hear whispered in your ear, proclaim from the mountaintops. Because listen, it's going to be known anyway. It's going to be revealed. Don't be afraid for them telling you that it doesn't matter. You hear me tell you, and you speak it out loud. Do not fear those who kill the body but are unable to kill the soul. So he says, listen, I am not saying they cannot harm you. I understand they can harm you physically, but they cannot harm what is immortal about you. And although I'm telling you this, don't fear it. Fear the one, fear him who was able to destroy both soul and body in hell. Now I love this because he's literally saying it is impossible. You're a liar to say that you live your life completely without fear. But he's trying to tell you something, to not live with the fear of the people who can harm you physically, live with the fear of the one who can harm you physically and eternally, spiritually. He can harm your body and soul. And then he goes into this to the rhetoric about your value that he knows and pays into the sparrows. And how much more valuable are you than the sparrows? You're much more valuable. He cares for you. A couple words. Phobia, okay? Twice, which is like we know in English is phobia. We put phobia at the end of all things that people are scared of, right? Translated as fear in 26:31 and fear him in 28. This word appears four times with different objects. Do not fear them, opponents. Do not fear those who kill the body. Rather fear him who is able to destroy both soul and body in hell. Do not fear in general. The contrast shows proper versus improper fear. Once again, there is good fear and there is bad fear. Reverential awe of God versus paralyzing dread of humans. So we must choose the fear and awe of God, that I'm afraid of him and who he is and what he can do, not what you can do, which is more likely to keep us on the right path, right? Because I'm trying to. This is important because so many of us fear, and we're going to get into some relation. He's listen, discipleship. We're gonna talk about relationships, but you fear being outcasted by family and friends. You fear whatever people may do to you. But he's saying you need to have a greater fear because you choosing to fear them. It's going to cause you to experience what you really should be fearing, and that's God. Because your fear of them is going to cause you to throw away your journey with Him. Apaktino, okay? Kill means to kill physically, but the limitation is crucial. They can only kill the body. Apolemy means destroy, lose. This verb means to destroy, ruin, or lose completely. In verse 28, God can destroy, ruin eternally, both soul and body in hell. Finding such losing one's life use the same root. Now, this is something we have not read yet, but it's going ahead of us. Finding losing one's life use the same root. The one who finds preserves his life will. The one who finds preserves his life will lose it eternally, while the one who loses it for Christ will find it eternally. The wordplay is powerful. So, and that's ahead of us a little bit. So that's why I'm kind of stuttering over and thinking if I should even read it yet. I'll talk about that. I won't have to come back to that slide. I'll just talk about it. Gehenna, okay? Hell. So Gehenna, Valley of Hinnom, was Jerusalem's garbage dump, associated with child sacrifice in Israel's idolatrous past. It represents eternal judgment, not mere annihilation. Which we've talked about this already when it comes to the lake of fire and hell. This is not annihilation. This is not a cease of existence. This is a basically a place of living in shame, filth. This is the dirtiest place to be possible, and this is where he's saying that um, God is able to put you. Psyche three times. Okay, translated as soul and also as life twice. This word can mean soul, life, or self. The NESB's translation choice holds a dual meaning. God can destroy the soul, the immaterial self, but in verse 39, the same word means one's life in the holistic sense, your entire existence and purpose. Okay, moving on. Therefore, everyone who confesses me before men, I will also confess him before my Father who is in heaven. But whoever denies me before men, I will also deny him before my Father who is in heaven. So, and this is very important. Another time Jesus says that anyone that's ashamed of me and my word. So, this confession is not just that he exists, but it also goes down to his character. As we read these things, are you ashamed of them? And I'm telling you this, there are more people that you think than you think. And maybe if you self-reflect, maybe you struggle with your acceptance of these type of words. And I really do believe when some of the hardest words are going to be relationally, and that's why he'll bring it up several times in these conversations about discipleship. But whoever confess me before men, I will also confess him before my Father who is in heaven. Whoever denies me before men, I will also deny before my Father who is in heaven. And so this confession is challenged by our persecution. Will you confess me, my character, my words, my word, what I'm saying is right, my instruction, what I believe, all these different things? Are you going to deny me when people start calling you dynamic? Demonic. When they start calling you evil, when they start calling you unrighteous, unholy, will you start denying me, or will you still stand by me? Will you still confess your belief in me and my words and my ways, my instruction, my commandments, my laws? Yeah, I know they're against your culture, and your culture may see them as evil. Are you still going to stand by them, though? Couple words: homologio and orneomai. Translates confesses and denies. Homologio means to confess or acknowledge publicly. literally to say the same thing, covenant language. So literally it means to say the same thing. And I think that is actually very powerful. To say the same thing. Are you in line with him? Are you, or will you say the same thing as him? Or will you be ashamed to say certain things? Will you deny to say the same thing? That's very, very interesting. Arneomai means to deny, disown, or repudiate. These are legal slash covenantal terms about public testimony, not private belief. This has nothing to do with your private belief. It's about when you were in public, when you were speaking with friends and family, and you're amongst whoever. Will you be in agreement with him? Will you say the same things? The same things are right. The same things about the experience of following Christ. That's a big one because some of us lie about the experience of following Christ to others. We're not telling them that you're going to be called demonic. We're not telling them that you're going to be called unholy. We're not going to tell them that this is the experience. Or will you be in agreement? Will you confess or will you deny? Next one, imprustin, okay, which was translated as before, literally in front of or in the presence of. This is public legal testimony before witnesses and ultimately before God the Father. So literally this word in before is in front of. So he's literally saying, I will confess you, I will say the same thing as you, I will literally be in agreement with you in front of my Father, or I will deny you, I will disown you in the presence of my Father. We've seen the words of him saying himself, "I never knew you. Depart from you, you Pisces laws." That's literally him disowning you. I'm disowning this person. Why? Because they deny me. Which I think is very interesting because, like I said, it's bigger than just saying he exists and that it's kind of bigger than saying he's Lord. Why? Because in that same passage in Matthew 7, where we see the disowning, it literally starts by him saying that they'll say, "Lord, Lord, we prophesy in your name, we cast out demons in your name," and I'll say to them, "I never knew you." They called him Lord. They said they were doing things in his name because I never knew you, disowned you. Why? Because you weren't in agreement with me. You said you were, but when I look at the facts of what you were saying, that's not in line with what I said. And what you say you believe about me, it's not in line with what I say you should believe about me. You presented yourself a different Jesus. That's not who I am. You denied who I was and claimed to confess who I am, but you confess your own version of me, not the real me. Let's continue on. We're almost done. Matthew 10:34-36. Do not think I came to bring peace on the earth. I did not come to bring peace, but a sword. For I came to set a man against his father, and a daughter against her mother, and a daughter in law against her mother in law. And a man's enemies will be the members of his household. These are hard things to be in agreement with. But do you agree? Do you agree? Or are you of those who call those evil who are in agreement with this? But these are the things. I'm trying to tell you, these are the things. Not only is he outlining as a disciple where your opponents are going to come from, your enemies will be in your household. I'm a daughter, and guess what? My opponent is my mother. She's the one that's calling my ways evil. She's the one that's calling me demonic. She's the one that's saying I'm on the wrong path. I'm a son. My opponent is my father. He's the one saying I'm on the wrong path. He's the one saying I'm demonic. He's the one saying I'm doing what I'm doing is unrighteous. He's the one. Daughter-in-law against her mother-in-law. My husband's mom is saying I'm wrong, I'm evil, I'm a bad influence. On my husband, take him down the wrong path, pulling him from his Christian roots. Will you stand firm? Is the question. And understand this was always in his plan. This is not something abnormal. It's what's going to happen, is what he said, I'm bringing. A couple words here. Irini in Makara, I'm sorry, translated as peace and sword. Irini is shalom, comprehensive well-being and harmony. Makara is a short sword or dagger representing division and conflict. Jesus' point, his coming creates a crisis that divides even families. Even families. And what's important about this, about the even family, he goes into the most unpredictable thing that oh, God, it would divide families, the one who spoke, honor your father and mother. Yeah, discipleship does that. You have to understand, we're on a whole nother level now. He knows you honor your father and mother, all those different things. He knows you have it. But then he says, okay, one thing you still lack, sell your possessions, give to the poor. You have treasure in heaven. Now come and follow me. But he's saying if it'll even divide families, think about every other relationship that's considered under that in the culture of the world. And if it does families, how much more everything else? Are you willing to experience that divide is the question. That's what it takes to be a disciple. Family, friends, people you used to play. If you play sports, people you used to play sports with. If you sing, people you were in choir with. Acquaintances, people you go to church with. You went to church with. People if they've known you since you were a little child. Are you willing to accept that? To walk this path, to be a learned one, to be a taught one, to have the experience of Christ. Dikazo, dikazo, set against, means to divide in two, to cause division. This is an act of division created by the gospel message. So it literally means to divide in two, that they are no longer one, and I think that no longer one is in intellectually. It's obviously that these are, actually I won't get into that yet, but to no longer be what to cause dissension. And it's funny because dissension is a deed of the flesh, but I think the point of it is that although the gospel causes it, Paul literally writes and says that we should try to be at peace with all people. So we're not really going to actively choose to divide, but we're going to stand firm in what we believe. And if you can't be one with me, you can't walk with me with what Jesus is telling me to believe and speak, and I'm in one with what he has said, then division is your choice, and that's what I'm going to allow you to do. I'm going to let you do that, but I'm not going to change. I'm not going to settle. I'm not going to move. Last section. He who loves father or mother more than me is not worthy of me, and he who loves son or daughter more than me is not worthy of me, and he who does not take his cross and follow after me is not worthy of me. He who has found his life will lose it, and he who has lost his life for my sake will find it. Amen. He who loves father or mother more than me is not worthy of me. You're not worthy of him. You're not worthy of him to be your teacher. You're not worthy of him to be your master. Remember, this was all started. It was a whole conversation about him being your teacher and master. Because what does that love do? When you love your father and mother more than him, guess what? Mom doesn't like it. I'm gonna throw that part away. I'm not gonna walk in obedience in this way. Why? Because my mommy doesn't like it. My daddy doesn't like it. My son or daughter doesn't agree with this. So you know what? I'm not going to believe. I'm not going to walk in and I'm not going to confess it. Why? Because it hurts their feelings. But you're not worthy. And this is not, like I said, this is discipleship. This ain't for everybody. It's for a rare few in their households. We've already talked about this, about the landscape of the new heaven, new earth. You can go out into the nations, but you can't be in that heavenly Jerusalem loving. You can't. And I don't want to say it like that, that you can be out of nations and love love your mother and father more than him and exist in the nations per se. But I am saying that this is for the bond servants. It's funny because sometimes I hear, and actually I'll get into this to another day because we will talk about. I know it's in another section. Trust me, it's hard for me not to jump ahead as we talk about this because there's so many great things in discipleship that these teachings will open your eyes to a lot of things that look righteous and they're really not. But you're not worthy of him. You're not worthy of him being your teacher. You're not worthy of him being your master, and that's the truth. He is not here for compromise with the feelings of your father, your mother, or your children. And he who does not take his cross and follow after me is not worthy of me. So what does this mean? So literally understand that, like, and I'm going to get into in a second, but this cross in this situation is a symbol of like you're going basically to your death, like you're going to the what looks like a harm of yourself, of your life, and he's saying that listen, the journey with me is not walking away from. You're not avoiding the how I say this, the torments of life, the torments of people, the torments of, and I guess in context with all these different things being called demonic, being divided from family members. When you take up your cross in context of what we're talking about, you're walking towards it. You're not avoiding it. I'm picking up my cross and I'm following after him. And I'm walking towards all the things, all the perceived hardships that his journey has to offer. If you're not willing to do that, you're not worthy of him. You're not worthy of him being your teacher, and you're not worthy of him being your master. He who has found his life will lose it, and he who has lost his life for my sake will find it. So we're not on a journey of trying to find our lives, trying to find ourselves. That's what regular people do. I'm trying to find myself, find this, find it. I'm trying to figure out who I am. He says, no, I want you to lose your life. Lose it. Lose your status in society. Lose your relationships with your family. Lose your relationships with your friends. I want you to lose your life. But what you're saying is that, listen, it's not just the losing it for nothing. You're losing it and you're going to find it. You're going to find the real life that God has for you, which is a complete 180 from what the world's teaching you. The world teaches you that, okay, we're going to build this great life from being a young kid. You go to kindergarten, you go to elementary school, you're going to be a good kid. You have teachers that love you. You're going to build up friends along the way, and you're going to keep building up this great life from middle school to high school. You go to college, and you're going to build this great life, meet friends, network. You're going to build this great network, find a job. You're going to get married, have kids, and look at all this life you've built for yourself. But how the gospel works, or how discipleship works, Is that no, he chose me, he called me as a young adult. And now he's telling me to lose it all that I've built for myself. Lose the great stats and all my school my teachers in school's eyes, my elementary teachers, my middle school teachers, my high school teachers, my college teachers. Lose the friends that you've had since childhood. Lose the great place you've found yourself in your family in your society. I want you to lose it, and you'll find it. I want you to understand that everything you think you found, if you're looking to find it, you're going to lose anyway. Axios, it means worthy, deserving, or fitting. It's about meeting the standard required for discipleship. Absolute loyalty to Christ above all other relationships. Now, once again, we sing the songs and talk about like, oh, I'm so unworthy. You know what I'm saying? That's Kirk Franklin right there. We sing the songs about us how we're unworthy and God still loves all those different things, right? Discipleship, we're talking about a different whole, with a different realm. Yes, you have to be worthy to be a disciple. That's what he's saying. The worthy, deserving, fitting. Do you meet the standard? There is no falling below that standard, and you still get all the blessings in life and everything he wants to give his disciples. No, that's not how it works. But the standard is absolute loyalty to Christ above all of relationships. He does not care about what anyone else thinks, what any relationship says, what you got to lose. He expects loyalty and belief and dedication above all other relationships. And you know when you find yourself in the place of you found the life that wants to give you. You've lost the life in the flesh and found the life in the spirit because you will have people where it will no longer be a stumbling block between you and the words of Christ. They will also embrace to hate the father and mother, or love. Well, we even got the. Yeah, I'm sorry. To love the father and mother less than him, and love the wife less than him, and the brothers and sisters and the children less than him. They will embrace being called demonic and all these different things. That's when you know you found a life. When they're making you stronger in the red letters, stronger in belief, more comfortable in believing in it. And lastly, we got stauros, which is cross. The cross wasn't yet a Christian symbol, but an instrument of Roman execution. To take up one's cross meant walking to your own execution, total self-denial, and willingness to die. So, once again, we're on this journey. We have to be willing to lose anything, even if it's our own life, to follow Jesus. And that's what he's saying. If you're not willing to do that, you're not worthy of him. And it's as simple as that. This was lesson one, Milan. We're back soon with lesson two very soon. Be blessed.